Hello, I want to thank you for joining me today, giving me a chance to introduce you to this new endeavor. My site will be called Garden Party Classroom, and I'll tell you in a minute how I got that name. But I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit to you, give you some background. And that's the purpose of this video. Some time ago, being a high school dropout, throwout really, I did get my GED. I went on to homeschool 4 kids, and I went to college. I have 6 years college at a Christian college in social studies, social sciences, really. And it's been a long journey that's been very blessed. I do, I did find college very easy. I maintained a 3.9 GPA the entire time I was there. And really, that point 1 point score was due more to scheduling problems than with my problems in academia. Um, College was very, very easy for me at age 50 to attend. Um, I found most of the students in my class did not really even know how to form a proper sentence, let alone have any deep discussions or knowledge. This is the American public school system that we now face. I have not been in it for uh, let's see, 53 years, and yet I find that I still suffer from some of the effects of that. Indoctrination is not education. I think that what's going on in our school systems today, particularly university, is very sad. Uh, I blame a lot of it on the professors that pretty much puppet what they've been taught. They may have looked into their subject somewhat in depth, but usually pertaining to what they've already been taught. They just look for things to back it up. Um, and then they go from the curriculum that they're given to feed to their students. That curriculum very often is published by some questionable publishers in some questionable countries. The publisher that was primarily used at my university was one in which it was all funded and published in Arab states. I am not a racist, but they do have different views than we do. And the tales of history go to the victor, or at least they used to. The one who wins is the one whose story uh, rides the highest on the waves. But nowadays, and maybe for the last 50 years, it has not gone to the victor. It has gone to the propagandist. And we are taught what someone somewhere thinks we should hear. It's been a long journey, but the Lord is good. And from that point, I will tell you that I homeschooled 4 kids and a grandson from time to time. I went back to college at age 50 when I had been blogging online internationally and realized one day that many supposed third world countries knew more about American history than I had ever heard, and there probably are still many out there like that. The world is full of so many wonderful things that the Lord has blessed human beings to be able to do. And so many of us never hear those stories. So, yes, I am a Christian. I realized one night, hiding under the bed with my baby from a huge, horrible storm that was going on, that I had very small and inept ability to actually protect that child. And I called out to God. I needed a power that was higher than my own. And He has come flooding in. The last 45 years of my life walking with Him have been so precious to me. I can't tell you how patient and merciful He has been to me. And so, if you're not a Christian, I would like you to consider giving the Lord Jesus Christ a chance in your life. Since that time, I was inspired to get a Bible, which I did. I sat down with it and then got back up and got a dictionary because there were so many terms in there that I had no idea what they meant. So I started at page 1 with my dictionary and began to read the most epic, awesome stories of a people down through history that I had never even imagined. Um, a lot of people never crack their Old Testament open, but that's where I started out. I did become somewhat convicted doing it that way. I felt that uh, the Jewish people were so much further along than what I could ever be. I mean, they're raised with the prayers and the history and the studies and the law of what to do right and wrong that I would never have a chance. They were like in this little shallow divot in the dirt, and I was in this huge chasm of sinful ways. But then I got to the New Testament, thank God, and uh, and learned that there was hope for me yet. The Lord Jesus on the road to Emmaus said, though, how foolish and dull we are not to keep the things that we are told the prophets in the Old Testament within our consideration. We need to remember what the prophets have said. And to the Jewish people, Moses was a prophet. Many of the people that we just consider people, the Jews consider prophets as well. So that covers that. We have so much to learn from the Lord. It never grows old. Um, it was about time for my oldest to attend school. That's what everybody does, right? It was very hard for me. I did not want to let go of her. I did not think that she was ready to leave me and go to school. I did have two other babies at the time, but I spent every evening that summer sewing rows of laces on her socks and little bluebirds and kittens and all of that. I did it to matching underwear as well. And the first day of school, I was friends with the teacher, so I was sticking around a while. I noticed this little girl beginning to make fun of her lacy socks. She was going to attend this religious school, and so they had uniforms, but she could wear her little special socks without having any problems. And this little girl apparently thought they were pretty weird. My sweet, perfect, darling little dear immediately stomped on her toes. So, yeah, there's a lot us moms need to learn with our kids. Her mom and I became the very best of friends. I still love her, even though that's been 40 years ago. Um, and so we have lots to learn. But there were problems with the schools, even back then. And this was a religious school. It was not as strict as what they have to be now, but there were still problems with the curriculum. My Bible did not match their Bible, and so I was often accused of trying to teach against what the school was teaching, and problems like that. One day, about 11 in the morning, the phone rang, and this man on the other end of the phone told me that he had grabbed my little blonde-headed darling and proceeded to tell me all the things that he was going to do to her. So I had better get my money together in order to buy her back. It's the most frightening time in all my years that I can ever remember. It was devastating. I got off the phone and called up to the school, and they said, no, no, your daughter's fine. She's right here. She's fine. They went down to her classroom, but I wouldn't take their word for it. I put the other babies in the car and raced up there. I just had to get my hands on her and make sure she was okay. I became very involved in school. I was teacher's aide, art teacher, gym teacher, homeroom mother, PTA president. I sat on the Board of Education. I was involved in everything at school while dragging these poor little babies along with me. One day I was doing an event for school choice with Phyllis Schaffly. I was blessed enough to be able to meet her, and we were working on this event. And I was kind of whining to her about how hectic my life was. And she stopped what she was doing and she looked at me and she said, then why do you do it? And that kind of slapped me in the face and made me stop and think about it, what she said. And I thought, yeah, why do I do it? There's got to be a better way. At the time, I had often listened to Dr. Dobson. In fact, I still love Dr. Dobson. I thank God for Dr. Dobson. I always think that he was such a father figure for me. What a blessing his talk shows were. And he had been talking about homeschooling. This was a wholly new and different idea to me and to everyone I knew at the time, really. The kids' dad was not crazy about it. He worked nights, and so during the day, it was kind of difficult already to keep the kids quiet while he slept. Um, but I wanted to try it. There were problems with that as well, but these were problems that I had more options with, problems that I had. Um, better avenues for dealing with than just turning the kids over to someone else. There were hard days. My oldest had some behavioral issues, many of them my fault. Uh, but I have to tell you, homeschooling 4 kids and a grandson, those were some of the happiest days of my life, too. I thank God for those days. They're gone now, but it was wonderful. Once I started college and learned what all of these education fathers had actually taught, except for Dewey and some of his ilk, uh, that the lap of the parent or the workroom of the father or the kitchen of the mother was the best classroom, that kids retain so much more when they are taught by someone that they have a relationship with that is enduring, that they can count on, that they are okay discussing and interacting with. They retain so much more, 90% more sometimes, than what they do in the public school system. I went back to college, worked on my secondary education and social scientist degree, and I have been pretty much working for the defense of Israel ever since then. I don't intend to make the garden party classroom all about Israel, but when I discovered how many of our presidents and even church leaders really believe what's put out about the state of Israel, I find it very distressing. I have even heard church leaders, I mean, like big leaders, talk about the occupation label. And I find that very concerning. You know, he who blesses Israel will be blessed, and he who curses Israel will be cursed. So I feel that that is my ministry, to work with Israel and defend Israel as much as I can. And I have come to love the Jewish people. And I have had to learn to differentiate down to every detail the differences between us and them, the promises between us and them. And so, for that reason, my maiden voyage in garden party classroom will be on the occupation obfuscation, because I think it's about to go up in smoke on our campuses and our university campuses and many other places. It seems like Ezekiel 38 is almost here, and I certainly want to do what I can to make it a little easier for them. Since I have been a Christian, I will tell you that I do dream dreams and sometimes see things. And the Lord has been very good to me. I think sometimes because the way my brain works, I need that handicap uh, to have further understanding. So one day I was about to wake up from sleeping, and I remember sitting on this big, loving, cuddly lap and feeling very loved And when I opened my eyes, I was in a garden sitting with him. And in this garden, there were all kinds of plants. I mean, vegetables and flowers and vines and trees and shrubs and all kinds of things growing. And the Lord said to me, or I just knew within me, that those were the things that we had been working on. There were plants that were planted um, for lessons I had learned, plants that were planted for mercies I had shown, um, plants that were planted um, that were far reaching from some of the deeds I had done in my life. There's all sorts of things like that. And it was such a beautiful, fantastic place. And right down the middle of it, uh, on this kind of crooked path, there was a uh, pounded, well traveled dirt path. I was a little girl running out barefooted. I had to go. I had to climb down and skedaddle. And I remember hearing my feet pad down that dirt path. And I got to a rickety old white gate, rusty hinges, vines beginning to almost take over it. And I turned to wave to the man in the garden, my father. And I was told one day I would not have to leave the garden and go back to the world. One day I would stay there with him. And so this endeavor is about our life garden, our experiences, the things we do, none of us being perfect, and how great God is, how wonderful He is to all people, whether they know Him or not. So I hope to share. I hope you will share with me as well. And I hope you will join me for my first maiden voyage on occupation obfuscation coming up soon. I will see you then. Thank you.